Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Plus here on News 9 Live. I'm Krishna Kumar. First up, our headlines. Air India's Delhi-Mumbai flight reports engine fire warning. Pilot calls for Mayday. The RBI's State of the Economy report is out and it says that interest cuts are but a distant dream. Has there been an extension in the deadline for the Zee-Sony merger? We will know because they're looking at a 30-day extension. The Bharat NCAP report card is finally out. Which cars have got the 5-star ratings? We will tell you all about it. And companies are offering heavy discounts on electric vehicles in the last 10 days of 2023. Vodafone Idea adds 0.4 million customers in September this year. Finally, Vodafone Idea is adding to its customer base. And we begin with the Mayday call in an Air India flight AI-814 from Delhi to Mumbai. To talk all about it and all the other stories we're tracking here on Business Plus, joining me here in the studio is Karthik Malhotra. Karthik, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us.
Thanks, Krishna.
It's not every day that Mayday gets called on a passenger flight. We're talking about a passenger flight, a busy route like Delhi-Mumbai. What we understand is that it is the systems, the aircraft systems that said that there is a possible engine fire, and that is the reason why this Mayday was called.
So the details are still sketchy, Krishna,
Right.
but as we understand right now, 150 passengers on board an Airbus A320 en route from Delhi to Mumbai on the midnight of 19th and 20th December. And just as the aircraft is lining up on the finals for the approach to land into Mumbai, there are signals and there are signs and warnings of an engine fire. And the pilots had to, obviously following protocol, call the Mayday warning sign. The aircraft did land safely. None of the passengers were injured, hurt, nothing. And upon initial investigation, there were apparently no signs of either smoke or fire anywhere from either of the engines. So it is still sketchy right now. Why did the alarm bells go off? Why did the warning of a potential fire go off in the cockpit for the pilot to call a Mayday sign? And Mayday is obviously emergency.
Yeah.
But thankfully it was on the finals, it was on the approach to Mumbai, it landed within minutes of that Mayday call. No emergency, so to speak, right now as we see it. But some sort of a signal going off means an investigation is definitely required. And reports are indicating that DGCA has ordered a probe right now.
Right, because, Mayday is a term that's usually used with, war aircraft, not with passenger aircraft. Not every day it happens. The problem is that just a month ago, on the 30th of November, another Air India flight, this time from Gatwick Airport in London to Amritsar in India, there was water pouring inside the aircraft. There was, visuals of it. And, this is another incident that is coming up in close succession to that as well.
Absolutely. So I don't think the problem technically here lies with Air India as a brand. The problem lies with the variety of aircraft that they fly. In this case, the Delhi-Mumbai flight, it is the Airbus aircraft.
Yes.
And specifically the Airbus A320, which Air India as well as Indigo, many other carriers have a very large fleet of.
Right.
So the point is, Mayday calls, of course, Mayday being just a term, is used both in fighters as well as passenger aircrafts.
Yeah.
But you're talking about an emergency situation, and an emergency situation arising out of a warning in the cockpit with alarm signs going that there is fire in the engines. But upon landing, there was no initial sign of fire or smoke. So is it an engine communication problem? Was there a small spark of fire that triggered that alarm? I think all those details are going to come out only as the final report of the probe comes out.
The reality is that nobody was hurt. The flight landed. In fact, there was a flight from Ahmedabad which was supposed to land in the Mumbai airport. They had shut down the runway
Got diverted back to Ahmedabad.
Yeah, so a flight was supposed to land in Mumbai was diverted to Ahmedabad because the Mumbai airport runway was shut down for 20 minutes because of this issue. But here's hoping that no such instances happen again, because it can be quite scary if you are inside that aircraft. But moving on and away from that to the Reserve Bank of India's State of the Economy report, which is out just a fortnight after the Monetary Policy Committee review meeting that took place, where the Reserve Bank of India held interest rates or did not change interest rates for the 5th consecutive monetary policy review. Now, this State of the Economy report says that thinking inflation is coming within line, within comfort level in that 4% range, and you're hoping that there is going to be a rate cut sooner than later, then you've got to hold on to your horses, because that's not what is going to happen. Because this State of the Economy report, while giving the Indian economy a double thumbs up and its growth rate a double thumbs up, also talks about the risks of rising food prices that will not be going away anytime soon. And that is the reason why we should not be expecting a rate cut anytime soon.
So, Krishna, I think we had seen great momentum in inflation coming down when the RBI had done these successive rounds of rate hikes.
Right.
But since the month of September, October, RBI has pushed that pause button and has not tinkered with rates. However, while the inflation was coming in line closer to RBI's target of 4%, we saw that target actually become elusive as inflation data for the month of November came in, where inflation on the back of food inflation, like you mentioned, went as high as 5.6%.
Right.
Now, from a 4.9% average for September, October to a straight 5.6% in the month of November means that obviously inflation continues to be sticky. Now, if inflation is sticky, and inflation being sticky on the back of food prices, headlines are obviously not going to augur well for RBI. Now, RBI's latest estimates in the State of the Economy report suggest that for the month ending December as well, the average for the whole quarter of October, November, December would also stick at about 5.6% or so.
Right.
However, because we had seen better, lower inflation months in the past, the average for the financial year could come to about 5.4%. 5.4% is still a 1.4% higher than RBI's estimate of 4%, or target rather of 4%. And even for FY25, inflation is likely to come in the range of about 5.2% or so. So from what it seems right now, from where we are sitting, and we don't know how geopolitical events and macroeconomy per se, and now this new strain of COVID could again play some sort of games with the overall economic growth story. But keeping all those measures aside, right now, looking just as pure economic indicators as we know them, it doesn't seem likely that even for the entire financial year of 25, starting 1st of April 2024 to 31st of March 2025, inflation is not likely to be in the 4% target, which means for another full year, another full financial year next year, rate cuts may also be elusive.
Right, that means full financial year means you're talking about an entire calendar year that's going to go by without rate cuts of 2024.
And another quarter.
And another quarter in the next calendar year, which is the year 2025. The question I'm asking here is that, obviously global factors also play a role, but India has, been taking calls based on its own reality, while there is also all this talk about will the US Federal Reserve cut interest rates, and many saying that there is absolutely no chance. People are over-reading into the commentary from US Fed Chair Jerome Powell. As we speak, Karthik, there has been a big inflation drop in the United Kingdom. And the Bank of England could be cutting interest rates going forward. In a situation like this, do you think that India will, at the end of the day, just keep looking at its CPI inflation and WPI inflation and let only that determine whether we need a rate cut or not going forward?
So, Krishna, I believe RBI has been fairly clear that India's monetary policy will run independent of how monetary policies, tightening or loosening of purse strings, are happening across the rest of the world. Which means that even if there is a positive commentary coming from the Fed or the Bank of England or the Bank of Japan for that matter, unless India's own macroeconomic situation and India's own inflation is not looking in line with the RBI's target, RBI is not going to come under pressure. And Shaktikanta Das, having completed 5 years in office now, is also coming out on record and saying that the RBI's focus, not necessarily India's focus, but RBI's focus is inflation as priority 1 and growth as priority 2. The government has enough in its own arsenals by way of fiscal policy and SOPs, etc., to control growth, but inflation seems to be RBI's #1 priority. So RBI, I doubt, is going to come under pressure from any other rate hike, rate cut, rate pause decisions anywhere else in the world. It is only and only going to look at inflation in India.
Right, and the very important point you made in between all of that, it's been 5 years since Mr. Shaktikanta Das took over as RBI governor. It's been a term in which balance has been the key word, isn't it? Striking a balance between growth and inflation, and that tightrope walk is set to continue going into 2024 and possibly into the year 2025.
But Krishna, one sort of warning bell, not a Mayday yet, not an emergency, but one little signal of warning coming from the RBI State of the Economy report also suggests that if inflation continues to be sticky for FY25 and if rate cuts do not happen, then growth could falter as well. So the term falter with respect to India's growth has also been mentioned in the report.
All right, we will have to wait and watch on that front. But for now, we need to take a very short breather here on Business Plus. We'll be back with more in just a jiffy. Don't go anywhere.
Bangalore traffic is an example of something that has gone wrong with our system.
We have more than 50 flyovers in Bangalore city. If flyover is a solution to traffic problem, Bangalore should not have traffic problem.
According to TomTom Traffic Index 2022, Bangalore is ranked as the second worst city in the world when it comes to traffic.
The speed limit at the ORR is 80 kilometers per hour, but our vehicle has only moved 10 kilometers per hour.
What Bangalore needs is a surgery, but what we have been offered repeatedly are band-aids.
Only on the world's first news OTT. News 9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
Since the last 2 years, Khalistani terror groups are threatening Indian diplomats in Canada, US, UK and Australia. Investigations of these threats led us to the first ever abduction and killing of an Indian diplomat, Ravindra Matre, in UK's Birmingham in 1984. Our months-long investigation finally led us to the murderer of Ravindra Matre, who has been hiding in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir for the last 40 years. Watch our exclusive documentary, Murder of an Indian Diplomat, where we reveal the man who killed Ravindra Matre.
Stop searching, start streaming. Download the world's first news OTT, News 9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
Currently, the industry is facing a lot of challenges as far as demand is concerned. Basically, the US markets has slowed down because of high inflation.
So obviously, diamonds being a dream product, something which doesn't have a utility value or is seen as a luxury. So that obviously goes off your shopping list. That's the first item that will go off your shopping list, especially in recessionary trends.
That lab-grown diamonds are not mined and they do away with the entire mining. So they save up on all the environmental damage that is associated with mining and of course, the mining cost, which is why they're even more affordable.
People that is impacted by all these recessions are the artisans, are the people who work in this industry, right? But I think lab-grown diamond has allowed them to actually use their skills in the same product.
This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News 9 Plus. Download now.
You are watching Business Plus. I am Krishna Kumar. The question that's being asked as far as the Zee-Sony merger is concerned is that has the deadline for completing the deal been extended or will it be extended? Because bear in mind, the 21st of December was the deadline to complete this mega $10 billion deal, and now we understand Zee and Sony have entered into discussions to push this deadline further by another 30 days. Isn't that, Karthik?
That's what we are hearing, Krishna. Apparently, the regulatory filing has also been made by Zee. I'm yet to get a look at the copy of that regulatory filing. Media reports are suggesting that finally Sony has complied. Sony has, after dilly-dallying for not more than 3-4 days, 17 December, remember, is when Zee had actually sought that extension extension of the deadline, which expires on December 21st, which is today. But thereafter, Sony wanted to first look at the new amendment to the contract, wanted to look at what Zee is offering, etc. And it seems now that in good faith, as it is being quoted in the media, Sony has complied and wants to extend the deadline by another 30 days. Now remember, this issue of course has been going on for almost 2 years, in fact a little over 2 years now. December 2021 is when the merger was actually sealed in thought, but sealing on paper is still likely to come in another 30 days, hopefully.
Hopefully. There's still no confirmation on that. But what we do understand is that already more than 300 crore rupees have been spent in merger-related expenses so far already. And the second thing is that it's been running into one issue of the other. The latest being who's going to helm this new merged entity. Will it be Mr. Puneet Goenka, the way Zee wants it, because of all the issues that Mr. Puneet Goenka has been having? And that's the reason why Sony doesn't want to give in.
So Mr. Puneet Goenka has also run into regulatory hurdles, of course, in a very, very different case, a very separate case with the Zee promoters per se, and some of the loans that they had given and some of the book auditing that they had not kept very, very sacrosanct. But SEBI had actually come out with an order saying that Puneet Goenka cannot and should not be allowed to take a management position in any listed entity. The Securities Appellate Tribunal quashed that SEBI order. Right. But if Puneet Goenka was to take up that opportunity of the merger going through without him sitting on the head of the table, he would not have waited this long for the SEBI and the SAT clearance to come through. He would have given up that aspiration earlier and allowed for NP Singh, the current head of Sony India, to be at the helm of the Zee-Sony combine. But the fact that everybody, both the parties, have continued this long, tided over all those hurdles, I think Puneet Goenka is definitely going to want to stay on the top of this merged entity. And now that there is no regulatory hurdle also for him to take that position, he's unlikely to back down. And right now, as we stand, this $10 billion deal is going to make Zee-Sony arguably the most enticing, the largest entertainment network in India. 70 broadcast channels, 2 large OTT platforms, Sony Live and Zee5. We are talking about a big deal, which not just 300 crores by way of cash. There has been a time and management time invested for 2 years. I think either of the two parties not wanting to see it through to its logical conclusion at this stage after investing 2 years is going to be foolhardy. I think that 30-day extension minimum will come through and we should see a more likely conclusion heading towards a merged entity happening in India.
Talking about conclusions, Sony has been talking about some closing conditions that Zee has to match up with or to finally seal the deal and get the new merged entity going. We don't know what those closing conditions are. We're only talking about the fact that this deadline of December 21st could be extended by another 30 days. That is reports of regulatory filing. You were talking about the two platforms, Sony Live and Zee5 getting together. What is happening in the OTT space? Just as a side note, Karthik, because you have Reliance Disney deal happening, which means that you don't know if you're going to have a separate Jio app and a Disney Hotstar app. We don't know if going forward will you have a separate Zee5 app or a Sony Live app. What do you think is going to happen going forward? Do you think that these brands are so strong that even if the entities merge, these two apps will continue to exist as two separate?
I would believe so, and I would hope for that as well, Krishna. And what really happens is anytime you have a demerged entity, here we're talking about a merger. Why do companies demerge? Companies demerge because they can extract more value, unlock more value from each of those separate entities. I think it's not going to make sense for them to have one unified brand. Merge your libraries, do your subscription bundles in a way that if you subscribe to Zee5, you will have to pay a much smaller delta to also get Sony Live or vice versa. Bundle your applications, bundle your platforms, even when it comes to DTH transmission, broadcast transmission. But it'll not be logical, I would believe, to merge these entities and create just one application.
Okay. It's all about the content libraries that they have as well. Such huge content libraries, it's difficult to merge them into one app. They can probably come up with a double deal. If you get a Sony subscription, you get a Zee subscription or something like that. But we'll not wait and watch. We're all sitting here and crystal ball gazing. But moving on away from the Zee-Sony merger to the all-important Bharat NCAP safety ratings, India's own safety ratings for cars. And the first set of 5-star ratings have come out ever since Bharat NCAP was introduced. We have Union Minister Nitin Gadkari also tweeting about it, or rather waxing about it. But tell us, Karthik, 2 Tata cars have been given 5-star ratings, but this is just the beginning because a whole host of cars have gone in for certification from Bharat NCAP.
Absolutely. So ever since, Krishna, in August this year that the Bharat NCAP vision was announced, and this is slated to be a platform and a testing tool and a rating system at par with all those globally, the global NCAP, etc. Tata, of course, has always been known for trust, and not just as a tagline in the brand. I think their cars have always been rated high on safety features. Whether it is the smaller Nexon, whether it is the larger cars like Safari and Harrier, which in the Bharat NCAP have been given the 5-star rating. Tata cars are solid. They are built with a lot of metal that perhaps comes from Tata Steel and great design innovation, which is now coming on the back of the JLR acquisition that Tata made a few years back. So Tata cars have been known for trust. There are other brands, however, which have a much stronger presence in smaller cars and are lighter cars, which do not come with that same tag of trust. So I would want to wait for the entire report of the first round of testing of Bharat NCAP. My only fear, which I voiced back then in August and I continue to hold on to even today, is that the Bharat NCAP rating is still voluntary. It means car makers can decide to induct only those cars for testing that they are confident about passing, with a good rating on the Bharat NCAP scale. So we know for a fact, for example, the Maruti Suzuki stable is going to put the Grand Vitara and the Fronx to test under Bharat NCAP. Perhaps it means that Maruti Suzuki is confident about those cars also being safe enough to get a good Bharat NCAP rating. On the other hand, a car like Mahindra Scorpio, for example, failed the Australian NCAP test about a week back. In fact, came out with a 0 rating on its safety features. So at one level, we have to ensure that Bharat NCAP is at par with all NCAPs out there, and it should not just be a statement, it should actually be a reality. On the other hand, I think the Ministry of Road Transport has to very clearly make it not voluntary but compulsory for automakers which put any car, any wheels on the roads of India to go through this testing and get a certification.
Absolutely, and for now all we can tell you is that it's begun. The testing and the certification of India's own NCAP has begun. We have to wait and watch to see how many cars get that 5-star ratings. But away from that, but keeping it with cars, we're taking it to electric vehicles. EV makers are giving out discounts aplenty because just got about 10 days, less than 10 days for the year 2023 to round out. Karthik, clearly they're trying to meet some calendar year targets over here in terms of sales numbers.
Yeah, no doubt. But I think in general, Krishna, we know that auto discounts come twice in a year. Once in the Diwali season, once in the year-end season. Diwali season because it is Diwali, Dhanteras, Dussehra, etc. Festive people want to make high-value purchases then. And December end because the model becomes outdated. So for example, if you want to resell your car in a car that you've bought in 2023, no matter whether you bought it on the 1st of Jan 2023 or 31st of December 2023, it is a 2023 model car and it's not going to fetch you the same price in 2025, for example. But if you were to delay your purchase by a day, instead of buying it on the 31st of December and buy it on the 1st of Jan, it is a 2024 model. So I think these gimmicks have been around for a very long time, and we've seen automakers across the board offer good cash discounts, good exchange value, good sort of loyalty bonuses around the time of year-end, Christmas, New Year, because they also want to get rid of all the inventory that they've piled up, because a 2023 manufactured car being sold in 2023 versus 2024 is obviously going to clear off their inventory faster than we know. So a whole host of electric vehicle manufacturers, from MG Motors to Tata Motors, etc., everybody is giving the expected discount in the month of December.
Those are mouth-watering discounts going up to $1 lakh in MG Motors, and good 80,000, 90,000, across brands over there. So if you're out in the market looking for an electric vehicle, now is the perfect time. Of course, if you missed the bus during Diwali, which is an Indian festive season, Bharat's festive season, now it is the global festive season that is going on in terms of Christmas and New Year holidays. So make sure you cash in and make sure you spend as less cash as possible buying your new electric vehicle, because there are so many discounts on offer. But we are taking it away from cars and electric vehicles vehicles to another thing that we all love, our phones and our phone connections. And India's telecom industry has had it extremely difficult, especially one particular company called Vodafone Idea, which has been tanking in the face of heavy competition from Jio and Airtel. But looks like things are turning around finally for Vodafone Idea. It has added 0.4 million customers for the month of September 2023. The question, Karthik, I'm going to ask you is it light at the end of the tunnel for Vodafone Idea?
I would still be a little skeptical, Krishna. I would say, yeah, it is a good number which has come out. And if you look at the trend from the month of, let's say, July, August and September, just three months. In the month of July, Vodafone lost about 1.3 million customers, 13 lakh customers. That plateaued to about, give about a much smaller 50,000 odd number of customer losses, still losses in the month of August. And in the month of September, it has added about 4 lakh users, or 0.4 million, as you said. So, it has the last 1.5 years running up to September, the data that we are looking at, has been a downhill sort of, fall for Vodafone in the wake of competition, in the wake of better, cheaper data availability, etc. But I think just 1 month data, while it is coming on a trend of lower customer losses in the month of August and then adding subscribers in the month of September, I would still want to give it another few months to make it at least come back to a 23-24% market share. Right now, Vodafone is just shy of a 20% market share, despite these 0.4 million customers added. Now, Vodafone had in the month of July, in the month of August, when this data had shown a plateauing of customer losses, come out with a statement saying that it is strengthening its 4G network, it is investing in 5G, and it wants to go after the high-value, high-paying customers. Perhaps that strategy is being tested, and that strategy is giving Vodafone some results right now. It doesn't want to retain everybody onto the platform. It only wants to retain the high-value customers onto its platform by offering them better service, by offering them better connectivity, and by offering them, of course, a better environment being in the Vodafone family. But I would want to watch this data over a period of another 3-4 months, because the data shows that there has been a downfall for a good 17 months. March 2022 is the last time that Vodafone had actually added customers, and ever since then it has only been declining. So let's give it another 2-3 months before calling a victory on Vodafone right now.
You're sounding like RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das, who was like, don't react to
the growth could falter.
Yeah, don't react to inflation data on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. It has to, any kind of data has to find its footing over a period of time. The reason why I'm asking this is that there was a threat that the India's telecom industry is going towards a duopoly, considering national carrier, which is a BSNL, has a minuscule market share.
9% or so, a little under 9%.
Minuscule market share. And it was supposed to be Vodafone Idea versus Airtel versus Jio. But with Jio's entry, it was Vodafone that took the hardest hit.
So it did, no doubt, and Jio continues to add more and more subscribers. So in a month where Vodafone has added 0.4 million subscribers, Jio has added 3.5 million subscribers. So Jio continues to add more subscribers. So does Bharti Airtel at a lower, lower clip than Jio. But Jio is continuing to lead that race. Duopoly becomes a situation when two market players have 80% of the market share. Right now, between Vodafone, excluding Vodafone, between Jio and Airtel, the market share is still in the range of about 67-68% or so.
That's nearly 70%.
70%, but still far from 80%.
Fair
so
enough.
if Vodafone continues to add customers, BSNL does not lose customers, they will still command that 30% odd market share, hoping that the market does not become a duopoly.
All right, let's hope that the telecom market in India does not become a duopoly. But with that, we've completely run out of time here on this edition of Business Plus. Thank you so much for watching. Up next is News 9's special documentary on October 27, 2023, when the world awakened to a new crisis. It's a new turn in a 70-year-old civil war, one that has grave implications for not just India, but also it threatens regional stability all across Southeast Asia. News 9 takes a deep dive into the mayhem in Myanmar. Take a look.
On October 27, 2023, the world awakened to a new crisis. A new turn in a 70 years old civil war. One that has grave implications not just for India, but also regional stability in Southeast Asia. Today, News 9 looks at the mayhem in Myanmar. For decades, Tatmadaw, Myanmar's military junta, held the nation in a tight vice-like grip, but not anymore. Myanmar is undergoing a seismic shift as a coalition of ethnic rebel groups known as the Three Brotherhood Alliance launched Operation 1027. A series of coordinated offensives challenging the military junta's rule. This alliance, consisting of the Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army, the Tang National Liberation Army, and the Arakan Army, seeks to overthrow the military regime. Over the course of the last month, the rebels overran large parts of the country, seizing towns and military outposts. According to analysts, rebels now control over 50% of Myanmar, and the military-installed President Mint Swe warning that Myanmar is in danger of breaking apart.
The Three Brotherhood Alliance, comprising rebel groups like the MNDAA, the TNLA and the Arakan Army, have been successfully challenging the military junta's rule. They've made significant territorial gains in coordinated offensives. Now, reports suggest that the junta is now restricted to just a few large cities. And at the moment, the military still has the edge when it comes to air power. However, the Tatmadaw army, the Burmese military, appears to be extremely short on manpower, supplies and ammunition. They're holding out now for a long and bloody struggle.
The conflict that now rages in Myanmar has its origin in one moment. On the morning of 1 February 2021, Myanmar's democratically elected ruling party, the National League for Democracy, was deposed in a coup. But the junta was not entirely successful. Resistance to the Tatmadaw survived in the form of a national unity government, the People's Defence Forces, and a number of ethnic rebel groups. Now it appears that the opposition forces have united. Geopolitical dynamics, ethnic tensions, and historical grievances are all playing a role in the present conflict.
Chairman Min Aung Hlaing stayed a coup and he didn't have the election as he promised. He said,